Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listofrederick.com. But we are rejoined by Minnesota native, a huge fan of the Minnesota Vikings, apparently, right? No, I'm just kidding. Mr. Thor Nystrom. Thank you so much for joining us, Thor. What a Marvel Thursday it is. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I come into the show this time as the enemy, but I'm prepared to hold my own and excited for the game this weekend.
Hey, like Abraham Lincoln said, we are not enemies, but friends.
Love that. Love that.
I learned that from American History X. Yeah.
Love that for you. Love that for you. Thor, to start this off, obviously, Minnesota Vikings is probably one of the least talked about 6-1 teams in recent memory. They've done a pretty good job so far. Kevin O'Connell, being a first-year head coach, has really done well. In those 6 games, what has Minnesota done in those games to kind of win those?
Well, first of all, the defense is much improved. That's the reason that they ran Zimmer out of town. It's because last year they finished 29th in defense or something, just falling off a shelf. And now they're doing better on that side of the ball. The offensive numbers haven't been quite as ridiculous at this point, but a part of that I think is just game script related in terms of not running up the yards. Like O'Connell's a very situational specific head coach. And when the Vikings have a lead, for instance, in the second half, they're looking to more control the clock, stuff like that, different stuff like that. But the offense obviously is very dangerous as well. And when they need to get aggressive, they get aggressive.
Right. And this Washington offense is not really highly heralded, but they have some weapons on offense, can definitely have the potential to be explosive. If they were attacking this Vikings defense, how would you attack this Vikings defense on the Washington side of the ball?
The cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm.
In two words, the quarterbacks. Yeah, and all three of them really, because you got to toss Chan and Sullivan into that, the slot corner. Sullivan is good at, and I think this is why they like him. Well, also because he was cheap in free agency, but he can come up and defend the run. Like that's, he's a tough guy that, will come up and help you sort of contain on the one edge, but he is not a very good cover corner. And so he's been ripped up by some of the better slots that they played in coverage. And then on the outside, Patrick Peterson's actually having somewhat of a renaissance type, this season. But one thing I'd say is the games where he has by far played the best, it's the games where he's going up against the guy that can't get any separation. The games where he's been up against like elite number one receivers, he's he struggled. He played down. And then Cam Dantzler, sort of up and down. But overall, I guess it's positive that he's taken a step forward from last year, but he is far from an elite corner. He's another guy that can be had potentially. So I think the thing that you're concerned about, as a Vikings fan is like, if Heineke, if he gets the time in the pocket, I know his ethos is sort of throwing short, but they could also potentially beat them down the field. But the other thing is the Vikings, I believe, rank 30, their pass defense, I believe it ranks dead last in the league in terms of DVOA against short passes. So, you can sort of get them on both ends of it, but McLaren's the guy that is terrifying if you're on the Viking side.
Right. I would hope Terry's scary to everybody, just about. The guy has a lot of talent. Now that he has a quarterback who likes to throw him the ball, hey. But let's flip sides of the ball. How does Washington, you guys, the Vikings have a good amount of stars over there on that offense. Who do we have to slow down to kind of have success or to limit the Viking success?
Well, again, speaking from like the Viking perspective, the thing that you're concerned about with Washington, y'all's defensive front is pretty nasty. And the Vikings, the Vikings offensive line has gotten better for sure.
Darisaw playing very well.
Darisaw has been awesome. Yeah, Darisaw could be an all-pro this year.
Definitely.
He's definitely going to the Pro Bowl. But for instance, and Ezra Cleveland has played really well, right? But like Ed Ingram, the rookie they got from LSU, he's been a revelation as a run blocker. Like he's like a stick of dynamite in the run game. He'll put you on skates and you're going backwards. But in pass pro, some of these guys who have like the old dogs who got the tricks, he gets real confused sometimes, or you can get him on a rocker. A couple of the games where he's been up against like the better, like I remember the Packer game against Kenny Clark was one of the guys that was sort of eating his lunch money on passing downs. So Ingram can be beat on the passing down thing. And then you're always concerned about Bradbury getting bulldozed, but they're going to have to keep the edge rushers out of the backfield, because where it could, I think the Vikings receivers are going to destroy Washington secondary if it gets to that point. But the one sort of thing that Washington has in their pocket is Cousins has been very good this year in clean pockets. Under pressure, he has not been good. And so if Washington could get heat in Cousins' face, you can take down, sort of take out the tent pole in the middle of the circus tent, like on their passing game. And there's been stretches this season that go even longer than a quarter where it's like, how are they not passing better than this? And usually they'll get back on track. But like, for instance, like in the Miami Dolphins game, Miami has a terrible secondary, and they had all these guys who were injured, and Cousins just like initially just was not throwing the ball well. It took them until later in the second quarter to like truly get on track there. So, and that's the key, is just getting the heat on his face. So that's the key for y'all.
Yeah, and I know Reed loves the sound of that. He loves bringing heat.
Oh, I love watching Cousins get just demolished.
Now, my next question for you: the Vikings made headlines earlier in the week. Up until the trade deadline, you guys had lost Irv Smith for the season, so you went and traded for T.J. Hockenson. What are your expectations? Do you think T.J. Hockenson is going to get a large snap count this weekend?
Expectation for this weekend or long term?
Just this weekend.
This weekend. I would assume that he gets partial snaps.
Okay.
I don't believe that he'll be able to do the full gamut of them. He was talking yesterday about how like an inside, outside zone runs an outside zone run, and all the receiving routes are, they're all the same across all the offenses, but it's totally different terminology. And, and he was saying, like, I played for 3 offensive coordinators in the NFL so far. I know how to learn stuff quick, but like, he's not going to learn that new language in the 3 days
in off season, right?
Yeah. But like on the other side of it, the Vikings really don't have a choice but to try to get him in for at least partial snaps, because like you mentioned, Irv's not going to be there, or isn't going to be on the field. And the Vikings backups, not only did I think Irv was one of the worst starting tight ends in the league, the Vikings backups are arguably the worst in the league as well. Like their top backup tight end is Johnny Munt, who's just a guy. Like the Rams were like, all right, Johnny, bye-bye. And the other guy is Ben Ellefson, who is this kid from NDSU that he's just a blocker. Like he's a solid blocker, but like he can't do anything else. So that position just doesn't get erased, right? Like, I mean, they need Hockenson to take snaps. So that's what I would expect, is like a 50% and usage specific, right? Like you're probably going to want him in there in the red zone, for instance, and then on some of the passing concepts where you want to target the inline guy.
It's a hell of a long-term acquisition though. Hockenson on that offense.
Yeah. I agreed. I could not be more sky high on it. I think he's a stud. I loved him coming out. Mm-hmm. And you've seen the receiving element already with the Lions. He's going to be even more dangerous with the Vikings, because with the Lions, the opposing team could always put their best cover safety on him, or best cover linebacker, however they wanted to do it. With the Vikings, it becomes a different equation, because the teams that have taken away Justin Jefferson, they all do the exact same thing, which is they stick their top cornerback on him, and they always give help over the top with the safety. So you're basically double teaming him on every play. Well, that was, maybe fine-ish when it was just Thielen and the tight end sucked, and then KJ Osborne hasn't played as good. Right. But now with Hockenson in there, he is always going to be seeing single coverage, and he's not going to be drawing the best guy on the other team. I think he's going to destroy there. And as a blocker so far in his NFL career, hasn't done as good as he did at Iowa. But I would expect that part of his game to get better as well, now playing with better players.
Yeah, definitely. And Kirk Cousins definitely likes to throw to his tight ends. Minnesota has a good history of tight ends with Kyle Rudolph recently. So definitely probably a match made in heaven for that for them.
1,000%.
Yeah, 100%. And so like you said earlier, you guys are 6-1 right now and atop of the NFC North. But a lot of the national guys, the bigger guys out there, the name-face guys, the people that are on TV, they think that they're a fraudulent 6-1, not really a contender. What's your view on that?
last year when Zimmer was blowing all these close games and all the leads at the end, they were blowing the game. They didn't say the Vikings were the unluckiest team in the NFL. It's hilarious that when it just switches the other way, all of a sudden it's all luck. I mean, like, yeah, some of these games have been pretty close. The margins in the NFL are close, and it's an indication of team quality, your ability to win those close games. So I don't know why that's not relevant to people. But the thing I would say to that is, on both offense and defense this year, the Vikings had dramatic schematic shifts. People mostly talk about it on the defensive side because you went from like Mike Zimmer's sort of prototypical 4-3, and he does his own wrinkles within that. But now then you go to the 3-4, right? And you were switching guys at positions where now they got to play different stuff. Like, for instance, Danielle Hunter, who had been a 4-3 hand in the dirt defensive end his entire career. Now he's an outside rushing 3-4 linebacker, right? And at the beginning of the season, he really struggled. Danielle Hunter was not getting pressure on the quarterback. He didn't seem to know exactly how to keep containment in that sort of position, like, like the spacing of it and like stuff like that. And then when he would drop back into coverage, he actually did better than I thought he would, because I just thought he'd be like a deer on ice. But it's like, he's not a cover guy, and you never should have, he should be coming downhill all the time. But there was different stuff like that, right? So they had a slow transition. You specifically saw it in the Eagles game, right? The Packers just didn't show up for that game, and they got drop kicked. But in the second game against the Eagles, there was all kinds of defensive miscues, miscommunication. They weren't getting pressure on Hurts, and it devolved. But they're getting better and better and better, right? Like every single week, that defense is getting better. And then on offense, it was something similar. You went from one of the most conservative schemes in the NFL, and one of the ones that used the least amount of 3 wide receiver sets, to now you go the other way, right? And I think they rank number 6 in passing rate, like something like that. And they rank some like I had the numbers somewhere here, but like 6 or 7 in terms of tempo. So again, they've just gone to the opposite side. They're no longer a run first team. They're absolutely a pass first team. They run at tempo. They try to get you on your heels. And then, when you're tired and you can't get somebody on, whatever, that's when they want to run back up to the line and do the no huddle stuff. They're also going for it on 4th down a lot more and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of differences, but the offense has also had to transition into that, right? Like from what the scheme used to be to now. And some of the guys are getting more and more comfortable with it. And they've all talked about like how different this thing is. But the whole point, short story long, response to your question is, at the beginning of the season, they had a really hard schedule. They were going through all these enormous changes. And yeah, they were winning a series of close games, but they're going to be better for the rest of the season. And especially now that you got Hawkinson, your overall roster is better, right? So I think that, is it a fluke? No, I don't think so. I think this team is a legitimate contender.
Right. And I mean, we talked about the stars a little bit. Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, of course. Hawkinson's going to be thrown in there, Adam Thielen. But if you can take away Justin Jefferson, let's say, and Dalvin Cook doesn't have that big of a game, who do you think needs to have a big game for the Vikings on offense to kind of, who can carry this team, or who should we look out for?
You just took away our 2 best players.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, outside of those, they're very good, and it's impossible to take them away. But like, what?
Well, it's tough. It's real tough to do both at the same time.
Exactly right.
The only way to take away Justin Jefferson, like I said, it's to play the two high safeties, the shell thing, and you got to double team him every play. That's the way you take him out. But now you're thinning the boxes against Dalvin Cook, who has run the ball way better, especially in recent weeks.
Yeah.
I think he's averaging 3 yards after contact, like he's gone over that every game for like the last 4 games or whatever. So yeah, you're not going to be able to take away both at the same time. It's not possible, because to do the one, you got to thin the box the other way. But like, if you could do that, and then just, Delvin, you can beat us. Thielen, you can beat us, go ahead. And then your tight end with Hawkinson's on the field, whatever. We'll get Johnny Munt the other times. But yeah, Washington's going to have to decide how they want to play it, because it's certainly pick your poison against a guy like Justin Jefferson.
Absolutely. And Thor, to wrap this up, I only have a couple more questions for you. It is the homecoming for Kirk Cousins, and we know all too well about who Kirk Cousins is. I've heard you talk about this before. There's 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins, and there's primetime Kirk Cousins. So which one do you think that we're going to get this weekend?
Oh, I'm praying that we get the 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins, who's a stud and one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The primetime one is the opposite. But hopefully it doesn't get too much in his head, going back there and whatnot, and hopefully you get a good performance out of him. But I think the way you start getting him to see ghosts is put that heat in his face right away. It's a really big game for the edge rushers for Washington and also the defensive play caller. Like, how do you want to do this? You can try to get in Cousins' head and play his game down if you delineate more defenders to blitzing, but then you leave yourself susceptible on the back end. So it's just going to be a push and a pull. And I'm fascinated to see how Washington's defensive coaches sort of try to solve that puzzle in real time.
And Thor, next question I have for you. How much do you attribute the defensive success to the addition of Jordan Hicks? So far this season, 62 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 interception, 4 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. I was very high on Jordan Hicks out of Arizona. I wanted us to get him. How excited are you guys to have him?
Yeah, he's been solid. And last week was, I don't know what the PFF would say or whatever, but I thought that was probably his best game. He was playing against his former team in the Cardinals, and boy, was he active. Peterson had a good game too. So maybe it's just, maybe that's a feather in the cap of Cousins having a good game here. You do it against your former team or whatever, but yeah, with Hicks, I like everything about his game except for him in coverage, which sometimes can be an adventure. But he's reliable as the run defender guy. Sees the field well, triggers downhill, and he's around the ball quite a bit. It's just sometimes it can be an adventure when he has the wrong matchup in coverage, and so it'll be interesting to see how against Washington, like who is he going to be on and how that thing's going to work out. But like at the start of the season, he'd given up like 12 straight completions, and he did have 1 interception, but it's one where it deflected off the guy's hands who he was supposed to be covering. He was like 5 yards behind him, and it deflected right into Jordan Hicks's hands. So yeah, I mean, every part of the game outside of the coverage is a huge thumbs up, and you can do your best to hide him in coverage.
Absolutely. Better lucky than good, as we always say, Thor. Now,
exactly.
last question I have for you. What's your score prediction for this game, and who would be the MVP? Doesn't have to be on either team. Whatever team you think is going to win, who do you predict is going to be the MVP?
Okay.
It's okay to hurt our feelings.
I'll go. I think Washington. I don't think Washington's going to win. I do think the Vikings are going to win, but I think Washington can be more competitive in this game than people think, like where it's legitimately a game all the way into the end. Because of that defensive front, like, because in that way you can both address the Delvin Cook thing, right, and you can also theoretically put the pressure on Cousins, which takes down the passing game a little bit. And then the Heineke thing, like I was mentioning, as long as his accuracy is there, the yards are going to be available. Whether it's yak opportunities after the short completions or I don't know how much Heineke is going to push the ball down the field because it's just not really his game, but however that goes. But I do think they'll be closer. I'll say, 24-20 Vikings, something like that.
That's respectable. It's better than 40-0, what we've had before. Thor, I can't thank you enough for taking some time out for us and be able to pregame for this. But before you get out of here, if you'd just like to plug your social media handle, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at ThorKU.
Absolutely. That was very simple, very easy. Thank you, Thor. Have a good night, brother.
Appreciate you, boys. Always enjoy joining you guys. Have a good one.
Appreciate it, brother. Have a good one. Man. I love talking to Thor. He's so energetic, dude.
I know, right?
That guy.
I like how he takes the question and goes for like 10-15 minutes on the answer. I like that.
He knows everything. He hits every point, every player that could affect the play, and everybody. I love it. The guy gets it.
Yeah, and now to pregame for this game this weekend, obviously big news happened with Snyder's saying that they are going to sell the team. They hired Bank of America to be able to find suitors for the transition if it's possible. We don't know if it's for full or minority stake of the team, but everyone is very happy. Obviously, this is something that we've been dancing for. We speculated back in 2017 that we would dress Reed up in a wig and send him into Ashburn to kind of Donald Sterling the situation, but we didn't need to hear that. That
Minus
being said,
the race thing and more of the sexual assault thing. Yeah.
Right, I got you. Yes,
you're right. Don't put me in that category.
I'm not sure if it really matters.
I just
but
fake
yes, you're right.
Sex crimes. I don't do any of that race stuff.
But let's get into our fan questions, and this one is from the Colonel. As if the team did not have enough distractions, Coach Rivera's mother passed away, rest in peace, Mrs. Rivera, and there's a question whether he'll be coaching this weekend. How can the team possibly be focused enough to get a win over one of the toughest opponents to date, Hall?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good question. Luckily, there's been so many distractions over the past like 2+ years and they've faced tougher opponents in the past and overcome adversity in the past. I mean, it's not the same like players on the roster like exactly, but 2020 beating the Steelers after getting the game moved around. It's on a Tuesday night. Steelers are undefeated. There was probably one last year. Oh, beating Tom Brady last year in the regular season to kind of spark the winning streak last year. So there's always been a lot of chatter around this team, and like Terry McLaurin said when they asked him the question yesterday, it's their job to focus what's on the field and kind of block the stuff out. They're professionals. It's their job to kind of block the stuff out. They always got other stuff going on in their life, but once they hit the locker room, once they hit the field, it's just focus what's in between the white lines. So hopefully they can focus on that and get the job done on Sunday.
Yeah, I thought Hall said that really well. I think they have years of experience in dealing with distractions going back to 2020. So I think that they can definitely handle the distraction and the turmoil and the chaos that's erupting at the moment. And they have a good leader in Rivera. He does a good job of being able to keep those guys focused. Even Jack Del Rio, when Ron Rivera was going through his cancer treatment, Jack Del Rio was the one coordinating and coaching holding the practices, coordinating the meetings and everything like that. So even him, to an extent, has done a good job of keeping these guys focused throughout all this craziness. So I do think that they will be focused enough, and I also believe that they'll try to go win this football game for Coach Rivera. Like you said, his mother passed away, obviously, which was very important to him, and this might be something that motivation for the team to go out and win for Coach Rivera, get him a W for this week.
Yeah, I was just about to say sometimes in the NFL, especially or sports in general, you see this type of situation kind of bring out the best in some guys. I mean, you think of Brett Favre when his dad died in that Monday Night Football game against the Raiders, and John Madden losing his mind. Brett Favre was the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. I don't fly, but Brett Favre. So sometimes you can use that as motivation. You can win some games, and hopefully they can do that. Especially, I mean, you got old Kirk coming back to town. I know most of these players weren't here when Kirk was here. You know, a lot of them weren't. Most of them weren't. Some of them were. But hey, maybe they want to go in there and they just want to drill Kurt into the ground. Maybe they like banging cousins around too. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know they were from West Virginia.
Yeah, most of them are. All of us are.
The next question from the Colonel, read it, going to you first. If Snyder sells the team, will these investigations finally end, or do we have to endure them in perpetuity?
Now, I'm no legal expert. I don't know. I don't know.
I thought there was more.
No, I don't know. Would they investigate the franchise, or would they just be like, "You're still under the microscope, Snyder"? I don't know.
Colonel, you and I both know that as soon as he sells the team, everything is going to evaporate.
Probably.
It's not going to matter. He doesn't hold any value at this point in their eye, you could say, because there's him sitting on the trove of money at the moment is obviously a lot to do with all of this. I have my theories, and I don't need to go crazy on here. I do that enough on Twitter and spaces and everything like that in group chat. So I'll keep my comments to myself, but I definitely think they'll evaporate once if Snyder does sell completely.
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much touched all the points. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if and when he sells the team and he goes away out the limelight, just goes away with all his money on his yacht off the coast of Italy somewhere, off the coast of France somewhere. Only time people will talk about Daniel Snyder is talk about the past. There won't be any type of future with Washington and Dan Snyder going forward. So, like Kyle said, I'm pretty sure that all the investigation stuff, I mean, why would the NFL still be investigating him? Because he's out of the NFL now. So, and then the Congress stuff, and I'm sure that'll never get released or anything like that. So, yeah, it'll probably all just disappear.
Yeah, because it's really weird for the Eastern Court of Virginia to be investigating Snyder for a deal that he's doing within the NFL. Really weird. Like, nobody's doing it on their behalf. It's not like they're contacting Eastern Virginia saying, "Hey, sue this dude because he took money from us." They're doing it voluntarily. Like, "Oh, thanks, guys. All right, I guess." Like, I don't know how you're gonna put this on me, but okay. But let's go to our Discord chat server and keep breaking down this football game. Remember, it's the blackout game this weekend, and we'll be there. I'm hoping into existence that Reed is going to be able to get off work so we can go, so we can finally go see a game, all three of us together.
Start the hashtag Reed to FedEx. Reed to FedEx.
But like not the field. Like get me a job at FedEx.
Yeah, Fred
Driving
Smith,
trucks.
hit him up. Hall, I want to keep this with you. The next question is from Big Tony Shivers. What does the defense need to do to slow down the Vikes offense? I think they need to key in on Dalvin Cook to make sure he doesn't take over the game and interior pressure to rattle Kirk. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, I think right now Washington's defense is number 2 in the league in rushing, overall rushing defense. So I would say you got to get the interior pass rush from Allen and Payne and Obata, Ridgeway, whoever else is in there rotating on that defensive line interior. I think if they can get some pressure up the middle, kind of get into Kirk's face, like Thor said, get him seeing ghosts a little bit early, get him rattled a little bit early, kind of throw him off his mark early in the game. Obviously, that'll disrupt the timing with Jefferson on some plays. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is probably still going to get his regardless because he's a superstar receiver. But if they can slow down Dalvin Cook, kind of hold him to less than 100 yards, 80 yards, somewhere around there, get the interior pass rush on Kirk Cousins and kind of push that pocket into his face, I think they have a good chance, at least on defense, to kind of stifle their offense and hopefully give the offense a chance to put some points on the board on our side.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. I definitely think that they have to be able to tackle well. In this game in particular, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to sit back as many guys into coverage as possible and force Justin Jefferson to go short and be able to come and make those tackles. Justin Jefferson has contributes 39% of all of their team's passing air yards. So all of their passing air yards, 39% of it comes from Justin Jefferson. 32% of their team air yards goes to Adam Thielen. So that generally they're only targeting 1 or 2 areas, and that's very important to be able to key in on. But you also can't forget about Jalen Reagor, who has posted one of the fastest speeds this season. So making sure that they are forcing Kirk to go short, to bleed this game out, like you said, to slow them down. Do not allow it to be explosive. Force them to have to go down to the goal line and overpower you, because at this point, this defense is comfortable on the goal line. I think it's very easy to say that they are not sweating when they get into the red zone. Right now, currently, this defense is ranked 8th in red zone conversion rate. So they're at a 50% clip, one of the best in the NFL, top 10 at the moment. That's what you got to be able to do. No explosive plays. And then I think you're 100% right about rattling Kirk Cousins, because we've seen here that Kirk falls apart when it's chaotic, when it's a very high stressful situation like primetime games. When there's a lot of attention on him, he crumbles. And so you have to make sure at the end of this game it's close, because if you're able to bring that chaos, that kind of stress onto Kirk Cousins, more than likely, like we know, he's going to make a mistake, and you're going to be able to capitalize on that mistake. But it's easier said than done. Right now, the Vikings are 21st in rushing yards and 11th in passing yards. Like Thor said, they're not run heavy anymore. They're pass heavy. And giving up big plays when we have missed tackles is something that's really killed this defense at times. And that's something they cannot allow against the Vikings. Make them earn everything. Do not give up anything easy.
Yeah, or, I mean, the best way to slow them down is probably just fake everybody being sick and move the game to a primetime slot and just let that Kirk show up.
Dude, that's actually a genius idea.
I know. That's what I do. I connive. I'm very conniving. So.
Very conniving. No, and I do agree. I do think that this is going to be a big game for Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne in particular. Obviously, Kirk Cousins does not evade well. Mobility is not his strong suit. You make him move side to side, you have a really good feeling about how you're going to go during that pass rep. But Kevin O'Connell, coming from the Sean McVay kind of scheme, you know that they're going to be doing those long zone runs. They're going to be doing the play action off of that. So keep it contained, and being able to get after Kirk Cousins in those situations is going to be huge. Because if they do run that play action rollout, the last thing you want to do is make it easy for Kirk Cousins to turn around and throw that ball. You want to be able to make sure that you're hitting him in the mouth when he turns around with that football. So keying in on that play action fake is going to be very important, because when you're able to nullify that play action against these types of offenses like McVay has, you're putting your defense in a very good position to win, without a doubt. Yeah. Now, this next question is from Tim Towner. If this is a close game, Which will be more important, time of possession or turnovers? Minnesota usually wins both, but lost both versus Philly. So if you could only win one of these, which one will you take? Hall.
Ooh, that's a good question. Late game, I'll go turnovers only because like I am a big time of possession guy, especially with an offense like this who has an elite player at both levels, like at both skill positions, I should say, running back and receiver. And then they get a guy like TJ Hawkinson, who could be definitely a red zone threat if they get down in the red zone. He's a middle of the field space eater as well, so and he's good in the red game. But I would take turnovers only because it seems that when this team does get turnovers, they win the game. They're 3-0 when they get a turnover. They beat Jaguars week 1. They beat the Bears, and they beat the Packers. They get a turnover last game?
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they got a turnover last game. So they're 4-0 right now. The 4 wins that they have, they got no turnover in all those games. So I think that that's another opportunity late. We've seen Heineke that when it comes down to a late game situation, he doesn't let it rattle him. He has not really the poise, but he just somehow makes the play with his little scrappy plays and extending the plays and everything like that. So, yeah, I would definitely take the turnovers so that they can get the ball back to Heineke in the offense. And like Thor said, the weakness of this team, the defense of the Vikings, has been their cornerback position. So if you get the ball back to Heineke late, maybe a guy like Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, somebody gets open and can make a play and get some points on the board for the win.
Yeah, for me, I agree with you completely. It's turnovers, without a doubt, especially it being a close game. The Vikings defense is 32nd, last in the league in opponents' red zone conversion percentage. So you have to be able to make sure you're capitalizing on the drives that you do have, because once you get in that red zone, there's a very good chance you'll be able to get 7 points. Last thing you want to do is be able to give up that possession for Minnesota to be able to drive down the field, and vice versa. You want to be able to give this offense an easy ability to go score points. So without a doubt, for me, it's turnovers. That's something that rattles Kirk Cousins, and we know. But that being said, they are not very turnover heavy so far this season. They're very soft. Right now, Kirk Cousins is the 4th least aggressive quarterback in the NFL, and he's the 3rd least in average intended air yards. So very safe, very secure. Everything is short. So I think the turnovers is something that could really change the tide.
Yeah, and just one thing real quick, my bad, Reed. I'm a big time possession guy because obviously, like I said, you're holding the ball away from an offense that can put points on the board. But just because you win the time of possession battle doesn't mean your offense is putting points on the board. You could be running 8 to 10, 12 plays, but then you can miss a field goal or you can only put 3 points on the board. So like you said, if you're not putting 7 points on the board and controlling the time of possession, then time of possession is kind of really null and void because the other team eventually is going to put some more points on the board as well.
And on top of that, this is what I was about to say too. I would rather have the turnovers because the time of possession doesn't necessarily guarantee a win, like you said. I mean, Minnesota could come out and score each time in 2-3 plays. You know what I'm saying? And they don't have the ball as long, but we're going to sit there and we're not scoring, but we're holding the ball for a while. So I'm going to go with turnovers, but usually time of possession is something that you kind of judge a team by and how well that they're going to do. And you would like to win that. But with a quick strike offense like Minnesota, a team that can really take it to the house at any time with multiple players, I think you're going to want to win the turnover battle, get in Kirk's head.
Absolutely. Now, this next question is from Orange Crush 92. What was the best costume you saw on Halloween, Reed?
A lot of kids these days all wear the same ones, and they're all stupid. No, but there was a funny one. I was at not when we were trick or treating, but when I was at DJing. There's this couple that came as a pair of tits. That was pretty cool. Yeah, it must have been annoying though because they had to walk together the entire time, but they were just tits. One was wearing one big one, the other one was wearing another big one, and they were just tits. Yeah, it was like cool. All right, no doubt. In a brawl.
I know I'm gonna be really cheap and corny with this, but I think the Leno family, Charles Leno, when they did the Halloween costume at Commanders in Ashburn, the entire family dressed up like the Incredibles. Which I absolutely loved.
Yeah,
thought that was hilarious. I thought that was one of the best ones. You know, I love the family ones, the family style ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I always find those to be the most creative because you have to find different elements to be able to make it all work. But so for me, the Incredibles.
I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but I'm gonna say myself because I was a taco.
Oh, you were a taco.
Everyone likes tacos.
You guys should have. All right, so you should have been in our group chat because Dan made a meme of Mike. So whenever Mike posts a picture of any kind, he always puts Mike as like a meme. As some sort, And so what he did is he put Mike's picture on a taco menu. Posted in the chat, and it was absolutely hysterical. I wish
I
you
would
guys
have
could be in
eaten
there.
that
No,
taco.
it literally
You know
looked
what
like
I'm
a
saying?
legit, like real restaurant menu and everything. I was like, damn.
There's the video. There it is.
Yeah, his video went out, but
Video
his
for-
sound is still there, baby.
Yeah.
Now, Reed, I want to go
Yeah.
to you with this question. This is from Jeff Miles in their Discord chat server. Thank you, Hefe. How will the defense adjust if Cole Holcomb can't play against a better offense?
Yeah, I mean that's gonna definitely be tough again, but I mean you gotta like what Jamin's done. Guess they're just gonna have to continue to rotate the linebackers like they were doing. And that's definitely scary, man, against us. Kirk, we all know how Kirk is, but Kirk is a very smart. He has a high football IQ. He knows what he's doing. He's a good field general out there. And Dalvin Cook is just such a beast back there that's gonna be scary, man.
Dude.
So I don't know.
I really hope that the Commanders show the video on the Jumbotron of Kirk Cousins in high school singing the was it a cappella? What was he doing? Do you remember that? When he was singing on stage. He did something in high school. It was really annoying. So I really hope that they pull that during the stadium because that would be hysterical. But how will the defense adjust? I would say I would be more concerned if they were going against the Minnesota Vikings from last season that was run heavy and dependent, where you need more linebackers on the field. We heard Thor talk about how they're going much more empty, wide outs and everything, spreading you out. And that goes to our strengths and being able to have our DBs on the field. Bobby McCain did a great job last week. Derek Forrest as well. So if they go in those empty sets, you feel much more comfortable about having those guys on the field rather than John Bostic or David Mayo. No disrespect to them. So it's going to be really important to see how they go about it again. But I will say Jamin Davis played so freaking well last week. I think they just have to continue doing that. And Cam Curl had the green dot last week. He was calling plays. And Jack Del Rio in his press conference today said he was very impressed with how Cam Curl called the game. And so I think they just have to continue doing what they're doing, using that 5-man front to stifle the running game on early downs with John Ridgeway and company, and then be able to get after the quarterback with only 4. They've been successful so far. So I don't think they need to make that many adjustments. I think they just have to be able to execute and win their reps.
Yeah, to your point, I think they're going to see a lot more Cam Curl down in the box like he did against Indianapolis last week. So if more than likely Cole Holcomb will be out. Like you said, I think you're going to see a lot of 5-man fronts. But to your point earlier, you're going to definitely have to be able to tackle in the open field because they're definitely a pass-first team. They try to spread you out and get the quick passing game going, or try to run some inside stuff with Dalvin Cook up the middle when all your guys are spread out. But I definitely think that the key matchup is going to – you hear me still?
Yeah, no, I said hell yeah because you said spread them out.
I thought I froze for a second, but yeah, true. But I think the key matchup is going to be what are they going to do when Justin Jefferson lines up in the slot? How are they going to adjust to that? Because he predominantly lines up in the slot more than he does on the outside, and obviously we got Wild Goose in the slot. He likes to hold a lot, likes to grab a lot. So hopefully they have an answer for that. I think that's going to be the key matchup as opposed to what happens in the trenches.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Jeff Miles' next question, Hall, is going to flip side to the other side of the ball. How can the O-line stop Zadarius Smith from being a game changer? He has 22 tackles and 8.5 sacks through 8 games. Absolutely just disgusting.
Yeah, Charles Leno is going to have a day set out for himself on Sunday. Charles Leno and I'm going to guess Cornelius Lucas because he likes to line up on both sides of the ball. But they're going to have to definitely get their techniques down. Darius Smith is a power guy. He's a technique guy. He's a speed guy. He can bull rush you. So definitely going to be a technical day for the tackles on the outside. Probably going to have to get a guy in there to help out the backfield, chip him a couple times like that. Maybe you line up a tight end. Maybe you line up Logan Thomas or Armani Rodgers out there, or John Bates because he's a great blocker as well out there to give him a little bit of help on either side. But they're going to have their day cut out for him. Hopefully he doesn't cause havoc and be a game wrecker.
Yeah, Jeff, the easiest way that they would be able to combat Zadarius Smith is by running the ball effectively, being able to utilize the play action to stifle Zadarius Smith so he's not being able to pin his ears back and get after the quarterback. But that being said, their defense is top 10 against the rushing and considering in rushing yards. They're 8th in rushing yards, but 29th in passing. So it's going to kind of screw with things a little bit, but I will say this. 18 of the 21 sacks that Minnesota has right now is by their linebackers on the outside rushers. 3 of them are got by their defensive ends and their defensive tackles. So that works to our strengths because that's where our pass protectors, our best ones, are on the outside, the tackles. We are easily beat is in the middle, you could say, more so throughout the season. So we are better prepared for it. That being said, it's not hard to be able to stifle Zadarius Smith on a game planning aspect. I think you could bring somebody over to chip him, John Bates on his side, be able to hit him as he's come off his route. You could have Brian Robinson or J.D. McKissick or Antonio Gibson coming over in pass protection on Zadarius Smith's side. I did a film breakdown on Twitter the other day at the Burgundy Zone, just search me there, of Brian Robinson absolutely blowing up Shaq Leonard. He comes up for a blitz, and Brian Robinson just bow, and it's like he got hit by a truck. It was like, oh. It's, so that sort of thing is what you can do to stifle Zadarius Smith just a little bit more. Double team him like Reed on the weekends, and you can have more success being able to throw the football.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, I mean, getting rid of the ball fast, just working the quick passing game, which is something that Taylor Heineke he's pretty good at. He likes to throw the ball short and not giving them really time to get to the quarterback. I think will be another thing that they got to do.
And that's a great way the very simple way you put it. And as soon as you said, I'm like, oh, dude, of course. Great job. Now, the next question we have in our Discord chat server is from our guy, Meast21 Brandon.
I can't believe he's back.
Yeah, he's back, baby.
Where's he been? It's been like a year since I've seen or heard from you, Meast.
I just said the big news drops with Dan Snyder. All of a sudden, he's like, hey, what's up, guys?
You know what? Maybe he's Dan Snyder.
No coincidence that Chase Young returns the same week as Brandon Reinbold.
That actually makes a lot of sense, except for you've met him in person.
Yes, that's very true.
Okay, so maybe he's not Chase Young, but maybe he's maybe he's his Paul
Chase
Bearer.
Young wasn't in the room or around at that time, so you never know. But
that's true.
His question is, Reed, how would you like the quarterback position to play out for the rest of the season? Keep the hot hand with Heineke or start Wentz when healthy or roll with Howell?
So I think you just got to keep playing with old Heineke right now, man. I mean, so far we've won games that the guys seem to rally around him. And honestly, at this point, like, look, I like Wentz, but if things start to go south, I'm all about throwing Howell in there and seeing what we got to see if we should move forward with him next year or not. Because I think it's safe to say I don't think that we should. I know a lot of people say like you can't count Carson Wentz out now, but I think that you can. So I don't want him to play anymore. I'm just being honest.
I will say that I know I'm not really flip-flopping, but because I've stayed steadfast in that Sam Howell should only play if they're mathematically eliminated. But I do think from a fairness standpoint, I think Taylor Heineke does deserve to get the same amount of games that Carson Wentz did. So right now he's at 2. Carson was at 6, obviously. So I don't know if he's going to be able to get to that threshold because if Carson is healthy, I do think Carson deserves the opportunity to have a more healthy O-line in front of him. Early on in the season, he was put at a really bad disadvantage, and I would like to see how he does being more comfortable. But that being said, if Taylor's on the roll, if Taylor's winning, this team is trending up, you don't want to change that. Continue to win. I'm not like the rest of this fan base that for some reason wants to lose just so we could get rid of Snyder. It blows my mind. But let's just win this football game. All right, man. That's all I care about.
I would say it depends on the next 2 games against Minnesota and Philly. If he goes out against Minnesota, lays an egg, okay, he's had 2 wins and 1 loss. He goes out against Philly and lays another egg and looks horrible, looks bad. He's the reason why you lose. The offense is not moving the ball. This is against Minnesota as well. So they're not moving the ball in the next 2 games. If he's not one of the reasons why they're still in the game or winning the game, and if he looks like he did against Dallas last year in these next 2 games, then you definitely got to go back to Carson Wentz, see if Carson Wentz has learned anything while sitting on the bench. RG3 made a good point when I was listening to the radio the other day that hopefully he's been on the sidelines. I know everyone hates RG3. Hopefully he's been on the sidelines though, watching Taylor and being like, okay, like he was making a point that whenever Carson Wentz gets outside the pocket, he's looking to throw still, and he's kind of like lollygagging and like extending the play and kind of lollygagging. But like, whereas Taylor Heineke, he gets outside the pocket, it's I don't see anybody. Okay, make a decision, run, and he's getting yards. And Carson Wentz is either just holding the ball too long and then either taking a sack or not throwing the ball away. So long story short, I think they should go back to Carson Wentz if Taylor Heineke looks like he did against Dallas last year, the next 2 games. If he doesn't, then if he wins one of the next 2, then I think you got to stick with the hot hand and until Taylor Heineke falters, I guess.
Yeah, dude, B Mitch on the radio today absolutely fried RG3, and I absolutely loved it. Because
What'd he
RG3
say?
in that video, he's getting trying to get all the fans hyped up to be part of the 10 fans that own part of the Commanders team, which is my freaking bit. But regardless, but he says in there that we have our first $100 million donor that's going to be with us, blah, blah, blah. And B Mitch was like, if that's true, if you have $100 million, like somebody that's obviously offering that to go in with you, why do they need you? I was like, damn, that's smart. He's true. He's 100% right about that.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's good.
Now,
That's
the
funny.
next question that we have is from Andy Lockhart in the UK. Oi! Thank you,
Oi.
Andy. Appreciate you, brother. Who do you want as the new owner, Hall? Or are we in Fantasyland even thinking Dan will 100% sell the team?
Well, you're not in Fantasyland, and the 100% thing obviously is still like a factor. I just think that if I had to put a percentage on it, I think that it's probably 75% that he's going to sell the whole thing, and there's like a 25% chance that someone might throw up a Hail Mary to him and be a minority owner and like go in with them so they can get a stadium, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But to answer your question, who do I want to be the owner? So I know everyone's throwing out that dude Byron
Allen. By the way,
Allen, yeah.
he ran the worst comedy show of all time. Kyle, you
Really?
got to watch Norm Macdonald make fun of him. It's the fucking funniest thing in the world. I
Well,
swear to
yeah, I mean,
God.
I know everyone wants to like to be the first African American a majority owner in the NFL. Obviously, it would be the perfect place, which would be in DC, like Chocolate City, blah blah blah. But either him or there's another guy. What was his name? He's from the area. Something Bowl, like Todd Bowley or something like that. Some like rich dude, I don't know. But he's from DC. He grew up in the area. And I know there's a third guy as well. He's like a part owner of the 76ers. He's from the area as well, grew up in Chevy Chase. And he obviously has experience running a sports franchise.
I was going to say Jay-Z, but that wasn't going to be a funny joke.
Yeah, but I mean, either one of those three. I just want somebody that has an understanding of the history of this team and is going to just do right by this team. I don't really care who it is. Just do right by the team, stay out the limelight, and, yeah, just get a stadium.
Look, I don't really care who the new owner is. If Snyder stays or gets a minority stake, that's great. I don't really care, to be perfectly honest with you. I just care about what's on the football field. That being said, I love the idea of Byron Allen with Jay-Z kind of teaming up in that kind of breath, or Byron Allen being by himself. Absolutely love that idea. I know everyone's talking about Bezos, and Bezos has all the money. He's Xerxes, dude. Obviously, he owns everything already. Why do you want to give him the NFL too? No, I'd rather give it to somebody that actually deserves it. I've always said, if somebody is willing to do anything and everything in order to achieve power and influence, they probably don't deserve the opportunity because they'll take advantage of it. And that's something I wholeheartedly believe in. So I don't want Bezos at all, not even a smidge. I don't want him at all. I like Byron Allen a lot. I also would love the idea of Peyton Manning being able to get in here. But the ultimate prize would be if they allowed the fan base to be minority stakeholders like the Packers. It would repair a lot of issues. Obviously, this fan base has a disconnect with the ownership, and that would be one incredible giant gesture to fix the relationship.
Would you do that if Dan Snyder was still the majority owner?
Hell yeah. Just so I could tell you in meetings.
Hell no.
And then he'd say, your percentage is taken out, Kyle.
Like, you can't do that, bro.
He'd be like,
I own it.
You realize that, like,
and he would say, we run the world, Kyle.
So you realize that, like, if you
you're gonna get us canceled.
Kanye said it.
Oh my god.
If you realize that, like, if this man like just ended up selling like a minority stake and was still like the majority owner, or like somehow was still involved with this team, they were legitly, and I like wholeheartedly mean this, they were legitly me like 100 fans left.
Yeah,
that would like be the last straw of people being like getting on such a high of like, yes, it's finally finished, it's finally over, just for him to be like, gotcha. People would literally be like, dog,
yeah,
I quit. I hate this team. I hate everything about this team. I quit.
Gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, I would.
Gotcha, bitch.
Basically, so many people except for like could buy this, and I would be happy just because. But like, I feel like all the rumors of Elon Musk, like, cool. Like I get it. Like, yeah, he's big and he's does funny stuff sometimes, and he's been successful and everything, but like I don't want a stadium on Mars, and he would try to do that. He would be like, we're going to be the first football team to play on Mars. This is going to be awesome.
First
like,
football
no,
game in space.
We're going to play underground. Yeah, we're going to
try to
the
send
Washington
Taylor Heineke to the moon.
squared to
yeah, exactly. He would do
triangles.
something weird, or we're going to play with jetpacks, and be like, no, stop.
The Washington Teslas.
Yeah, and Bezos would at least give us a cool stadium, but yeah, I think he'd be a little bit more power hungry. Byron Allen is cool, but watch the show Comics Unleashed, and
only if a drone brings my food and drinks to my seat.
That would be cool.
In all, Scott, I will say this: all I ask of the owner is that I don't really care if they were a fan of this team or have a personal connection whatsoever, because I feel like that
Snyder was a fan of the team. Look how that worked out.
And that's what I'm saying. It gives them incentive to say, I know what's better, and I don't want that. I want you to own the team. Just own it. I don't want you touching anything. Just hire the right people and stay the hell away. You know what I mean? And that's one of my biggest issues with this whole thought process here is I want to make sure that is sustained and carried through.
But that's why I haven't heard anything about Peyton, but that was somebody that we talked about like a month or so ago, because that article came out about how him and his team or whatever are looking to buy an NFL franchise, and just how cool would it be to have an old sheriff owning the team.
Now, last couple questions that we had before we do our game predictions. This is from King Commando Proud Papa on Twitter. Read, if Washington gets a new owner, does that hurt or help Rivera's chances to remain head coach?
That's good. That's a very good question. I don't know. I would like to say that it would help, but at the same time, I mean, he's gonna, depending on who it is, they're gonna come in here and look at the record and or whatever's going on, and they'll probably be like, well, look, you're not cutting it. We've been mediocre. We deserve to be better, and we want to hire our people. So I think maybe it'll hurt. Maybe it will, unless this has been in the works for years and we haven't known about it. Maybe. I mean, that's why they brought these people in here, to clean it up so it's in a better position to be bought or sold. So I don't know. It's tough to say.
It absolutely hurts his chances to remain head coach. New owner would want his own general manager, obviously somebody to coordinate, team president, all that jazz. So when a new owner comes in here, you can kiss away Jason Wright, you can kiss away Julie Donaldson, everyone like that. It's going to be a total and utter rebuild. Generally, these billionaires do not like to go in and use other people's stuff. They want their way, their stuff, and how they do it.
The billionaire who banged my wife.
I don't think it would be like a right away thing, like where they got rid of Julie Donaldson and Jason Wright and people like that. But I think it would be like a slow, like phasing out process over the next like 2-year process of him like integrating himself into the franchise and do what he wants to do. But yeah, to answer your question, I definitely think it hurts him his chances of retaining his job, just because, like you said, a new owner is going to want to come in and be like, I want to put my stamp on this franchise, which is just a clean slate, fresh start, which would be, like you said, new GM, new coaching staff, blase, all that good stuff. So, yeah, I think that the Rivera era would be coming to an end if we got a new owner, if and whenever that happens. But at the end of the day, also, even if Dan was like still here, I just think that if Rivera didn't get a winning season like this year or next year, the Rivera era would be over either way. So I just feel like either way it would come to an end, but new owner would definitely probably speed that process up if the new owner process is fast.
Yeah, and I also think that the new GM, if you're a new GM coming into a situation, you want to rebuild, you want to get your guys in there, you're probably going to do a wholesale. So you could kiss guys like Terry McLaurin gone. Jonathan Allen's going to be gone.
I don't know about that.
Without a doubt,
they won't.
Yes.
That happens all the time.
You still need cornerstone players.
Why would they come in here and just
start from scratch?
You're not just going to come in here and clean out the.
You still need cornerstone.
I don't even think that they would clear
out
people in the front. That many people like Julie Donaldson and them. Kyle, that's not how it works. They're not. No, it's not.
Also, they just signed contracts.
Teams get sold all the time.
The
Cons bought the Jaguars. They didn't just completely.
Like they just signed contracts.
Yeah.
It does not matter. The new GM was going to want draft picks. They're going to want their players because they did not scout or draft them.
That doesn't matter though. They're inheriting good players. No, it doesn't.
If the new people want to come in and integrate themselves to the fan base and say, "Hey, this is a new thing. Like we're not doing anything of the old," then guess what they're going to do? They're going to keep their guys because the old regimes never kept their guys.
They're going to say, obviously, these guys here didn't do anything for your fan base before. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to.
So if they get rid of Terry McLaurin, you don't think everyone's going to be like?
Except for they're going to say we're driving around.
I hate y'all already. Everyone's going to be like, y'all suck at
number
HL
17
already.
jerseys everywhere.
You're gonna see
they
what
like
happened
that
with
guy.
The,
Let's
you're gonna
get
see
rid
what
of him.
happened with the Texans when they're completely just dismantling themselves in order to recoup as many draft picks as possible to start fresh with the new organization with what they want to build. Because like we've seen with Rivera,
but the Texans didn't even really have any, like, outside of DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson, they didn't have anybody.
JJ Watt and also Deshaun
like,
Watson had those
Watt.
looming legal problems. Well,
he was getting older. Like JJ Watt was already getting older.
Well, I understand, but that's what Casero did when he got there. Is he got as many picks as he possibly
and guess what?
could.
He doesn't have a job anymore.
But what did Khan do when he went to the Jaguars? They were already bad, so it's not like they had good players to really get rid of. But you know what I'm saying?
No, I know it's a different situation.
I just like I get what you're saying though. You want to have like fresh start, fresh draft picks, bringing your guys that you want, but like cornerstone guys like John Allen that are locker room guys as well, Terry McLaurin, like dudes that are like in the community. Like you can't just think about on the field. You got to think about off the field as well. If you want to, like, the first thing you do when you come in is like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of Terry McLaurin. Everyone loves him. I'm getting rid of John Allen. Everyone loves him. They're going to be like, the fans are already going to start off on a bad foot. And you know how this fan base is. They're crazy.
A lot of it, you look at the team. First of all, there's only 32 NFL franchises that you can even buy. So if you buy one, it really just depends on who you get. I think the person who buys it, but like they're going to look at the team. They'll be like, all right, well, who are our cornerstones? Who are these players that we can really that do something? Who are these players that we can build around that we want to have here? And then they'll kind of take it from there. I don't think they'll be like,
also,
you know what?
If you're a GM and you come in, you're like, I don't want a guy like Terry McLaurin on my team anymore. I don't want a guy like John Allen on my team anymore. You probably shouldn't be a GM.
That's not it. What it is who recoups the most in return in a trade scenario. And it's your most guys that are the most coveted around the league. Remember, the Green Bay Packers were salivating at the thought of being able to get Terry McLaurin. Same with the Chicago Bears. And there's obviously they got trade calls.
That's also before they had contracts up, though. You know what I'm saying? Like they were in contract talks and contract years.
I get that totally, and it's actually a relatively good contract for Terry McLaurin, and that's what makes it an incentive for somebody that wants to go get a wide receiver immediately, and then for a team that wants to recoup as many picks as possible to start fresh. That's enticing for somebody, without a doubt.
No, I definitely get what you're saying, 100%. And I guess like a forward-thinking GM would be like, I got to prepare for 3-4 years down the road as opposed to 3-4 games into the season. But I'm just saying, when you have pillars of the locker room on your team and just model citizens and players that are playing at a high level, and then the first thing you do is come in and be like, I'm going to trade them away and start fresh.
See, it's not
that's going to sit.
It's not
terribly wrong with a lot of people.
It's not smart for Rivera to do that because he's 3 years in. You need those guys. You need to be able to build up that.
Yeah, I know, like a new GM and all that.
With a new GM, it's completely and utterly different. Absolutely, because like you've said many times, the last thing you want to do is be middle of the pack and just not sit there and not have a good roster, draft picks to be able to build because you're just sitting in that fluctuating area, right? Well, as a GM, you don't want that possibility. If you're doing a rebuild, you want to be able to rip everything out and so you could build back up. And that's essentially what my viewpoint is here is somebody could say, yeah, they're cornerstones, but that cornerstone might win us more games than we want because we want to rebuild. Might as well get as many picks as in return so we can actually get some good
I will
quality.
say the one thing that would actually legit piss me off at this point, and I know I'm going to get a lot of feedback for it, is if they came in, they're like, we're changing the name back to the Redskins at this point. And I love the name. I love the history. I didn't think I would ever like another name, but we just went through it and you can't just start this now.
It's
and
so
I don't want to go
probably
back.
bring even more people back than Dan
It would.
It's so funny that you
would,
said
and
that.
I don't want it to happen.
It's so funny you said that because Hercules had a question for us. With the new talk about a new owner, can you please tell people that a new owner does not mean an all-new rebrand?
Yeah, I hope so, because they better not do it all new rebrand. We just went through it.
Yeah, that would be
it.
completely stupid. And that's what kind of pisses me off about Snyder. It's like if you were going to be getting to this point anyway of completely selling, then why did you change the name in the first place? You know what I mean? It's completely backs. It doesn't make sense because you'd want the new owner to pick the new name to be able to go with the new identity they want to go with. And it's just ass backwards to me. Nothing makes sense. But what has Dan Snyder ever done that makes sense?
Someone said, like, I was listening to people like talking. They were saying that whenever they had alumni weekend 2 weeks ago against Green Bay, and Tanya Snyder came out on there and like everyone was booing her, you know, like chanting "sell the team."
That was kind of like
they really just kind of just like shook her, and also Grant was saying that he talks to somebody like kind of like high up in the league or like knows how these things kind of like go, and he was saying that it's possible that behind closed doors, because Dan never goes to the meetings anymore, it's always Tanya, pretty much like Roger Goodell or like the owners pretty much approached Tanya and said, like, look, we got the votes. Just take the money. It's less like shame on your family and on your name if you just take the money, sell it, as opposed to like we vote you out, then you get nothing and all this other ridiculousness. So I just think that up until like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, whatever it was, yesterday, whatever, I guess weeks ago, because it's been in the works for a while now behind closed doors, I think he was adamant, like, I'm never selling. Like,
yeah.
But I just think that something's changed. We don't know what it is, obviously, but
sad too. You do got to kind of feel bad for Tanya because like we've met Tanya. Tanya is a super nice woman. She's awesome, and like it sucks that she gets lumped in with Dan, who's basically the devil, because that does suck. I'm sure that hurt her feelings to get booed like that because she is a nice woman.
She was promoting her breast cancer thing. And
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I am so embarrassed by this fan base that the fact that they thought that they could boo Tanya Snyder during breast cancer awareness thing. I understand all about trying to force Dan to sell the team, but at some point you have to be a human about this and realize that is a breast cancer survivor who literally jump-started the breast cancer awareness campaign for the NFL, and you're booing her? That would send me over the edge. If I'm Dan, I'm like, I'm going to get my wife out of here. All these people are insane.
Yeah, I'm gonna get this woman who sleeps in a different room from me, and like just to show people like how nice and like real of a person Tanya is, like because I feel like people don't believe it. Like of course she's nice, but like she met us at training camp last summer. Then at the draft party, still remembered us and came up and talked to us. And when we were leaving, she didn't have to. She was walking by, saw us, saw Kyle, and came over there and started talking to us. She didn't have to do that. She remembered who were we, and like it was super cool and nice of her to do that. She didn't have to do that. So
yeah,
I know. I'll always be a fan of Tanya Snyder.
Yeah, of course. And then of course, thank you, Paul Murphy, who asked us about any preferences for bidders for owners. Obviously, we already talked about that. Same with the Colonel, had a similar question. But real quick, guys, let's do our predictions for the game this Sunday. Washington is 4-4. Searching to go 500, something that we are not used to around here in Washington, D.C. The Vikings are 6-1, 3-point favorites with the over-under at 43.5. Hall, what's your prediction? Who's going to be the MVP?
MVP is going to be, I think it'll be Justin Jefferson. I think that, unfortunately, this is the week where Taylor Heineke has one of those games where he looks like Taylor Heineke. And I just think that we can't get anything going on offense. I think the defense will do a good enough job for like kind of like the Philly game, where the defense was like holding them. Right. The offense is like, defense like, all right, offense, like we held them, do something for us, and then the offense can't do anything. I just think that, I just think it's one of those weeks. I just feel like it's due theory for one of those games where Taylor Heineke just turns back into Taylor Heineke. I'll go Justin Jefferson MVP, and I'll go Minnesota. They'll probably get up early and then kind of just phase out. I'll go 24-13 because we get some yards and some garbage time points. 24-13 Minnesota.
No, that's a really good prediction, and I feel like that's probably really.
I hope that doesn't happen because we're probably going to be there, and I want to see him win. But I just have that feeling, that gut feeling.
Yeah, I think the Commanders can win this football game under crazy, insane circumstance. I know everyone's probably going to be laughing at me for saying that, but I just have a weird feeling about this game. Obviously, with Rivera's mother passing, I feel like it adds another emotional element to it with the players as well. They know about Kirk Cousins, and they probably don't care as much as the fans do. But it is, I think there's something a little bit more here, but this is a very good team. I mean, they're 6-1. They're no joke. This is a very quality football team, but they can be beat. Obviously, 21st in rushing yards on offense, but on defense, 29th in passing yards. I think the MVP of this game is going to be Antonio Gibson. I think utilizing the running backs in passing situations is going to really help them out. We heard Thor talk about Jordan Hicks before. Really good against the run. Very quality guy, but as soon as you get him into coverage, things start going wrong. That's where you can utilize J.D. McKissick if he can play, because I know he's questionable. Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson in the passing game, and I really think that Antonio Gibson can flourish there without a doubt. So it's going to be hard to run the football against this defense, but passing the ball, it's going to be open. So for me, I think Antonio Gibson is the guy, and forcing a couple more turnovers, because they've been on a turnover streak. First couple of weeks, they didn't get any. And now they've gotten some on back-to-back weeks. I think that could continue with Kirk Cousins, old Butterfingers, being able to cough that ball up a little bit, make sure John Allen is breathing on his neck. As soon as he's scared a little bit, he makes mistakes. So I think our guys are up to the task.
Yeah, the good
Turnover
thing.
in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even pick my score MVP. I'm sorry, Reed.
No, go ahead.
For this, I'll say it's going to be 24-23, nail-biter, but Washington hangs on to win.
Ooh,
and the MVP is going to be Antonio Gibson, obviously.
And to add, I mean, what you're saying, the good thing is Jonathan Allen is very, very, very used to breathing on the back of his cousin's neck. The back of Cousins' necks. They're very close family, and he stands way too close to him at times. I'm just gonna keep this one short. And unfortunately, I like Minnesota. Minnesota is a very good football team. They got a good defense. They got playmakers out the butt, out the wazoo. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Hall. And they got their big plays waiting to happen. But I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings are going to win this game, and it's going to be 27-23. We're going to make a second half surge, and it's not going to be enough. But Minnesota's going to win this game. MVP for Minnesota is going to be the Zadarius Smith. He's going to have himself another day.
Yeah, I could see KJ Osborne actually being the one that flourishes on Sunday.
Right.
Usually it's a second.
I could actually
time touchdown because there's gonna be some juicy eyes.
That's a great
and
one.
I could see Jalen Rieger being the one who perishes on Sunday. He might die.
One thing is that on passing through Justin Jefferson has 2 touchdowns, Adam Thielen has 2 touchdowns, but Kirk Cousins has 11 on the season. If you don't realize, they love to go to their secondary guys in the red zone. So the backup tight ends, backup running back, those guys you're not looking at, that's who they're targeting in the red zone typically. So just keep your eye on that. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. I hope to see you guys this weekend at the game, the blackout game. Make sure you're all blacked out, ready to go to cheer for this team. And
I'll be blacked out.
Let's support this team, baby. Let's support this on the field as a symbol to show as a big FU, So let's all show up. Let's support the team. They deserve it.
Kyle, to who?
And a lot of credit to Hall's network today. Has not cut out, has not muted himself at all today. So which is awesome.
Yeah, the video for us
might
for
be
a second.
It might be a sign.
Progress.
Powerball tickets.
Right. All right, everybody. We will see you on Monday. Make sure you guys have a
internet
great weekend.
going.
Be safe. Like and subscribe. Comment. And, of course, if you'd like to rate us on Google Pods, iTunes Podcasts, Spotify, we'd absolutely love it if you could do that for us.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, but only if you're going to rate us like the top notch. If you're going to rate us anything lower than perfect, don't. Okay.
Reed, honesty is the best policy. We need you as a politician, Reed. All right, everybody. We will see you on Monday. Hopefully we get a dub this Sunday, blacked out. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall, and I'll be blacked out.
And I'm going to be the next owner of the Washington Commanders.
And make sure you reach out to Reed and tell him how badly you want him to come to this game on Sunday so he actually gets his shift covered. All right,
but
everybody.
Only if you say, Reed, come. Reed, I want you to come so bad.
We'll see. All right, guys. We'll see you on Monday. We've gone too far. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!